Hello again, and welcome to what I think is going to be the first video of 2014, so Happy New Year if you're watching this at the start of 2014. Now I did a little bit of work on one of these a while ago. This is my CryBaby Wah pedal. I've had this quite a long time. It's quite an old one. Must be about 1990, 1991 that I got this. Good old heavy piece of metal, very old school sort of pedal. And the thing that really makes the pedal work is, as this pedal is going up and down, in here there's a potentiometer, one of these things, and mine, through age and wear and tear, kind of got quite old and needed replacing, so I replaced it. And I was telling somebody about this, and he said, "Oh yeah," he says, "that would be an excellent subject for one of your YouTube videos." Oh, damn it! Too late. I've already done the work now. So what I thought I'd do in this video is revisit the job and talk you through how you replace a potentiometer like this on a wah pedal. Now there's a few different types of wah pedal out there. This one is a Dunlop original CryBaby. It's a GCB95. Now, so what I'm going to show you is basically the same for all the different types of pedal that you'll come across, certainly from the Dunlop range. But you might see some differences when you open the pedal up and have a look inside. The layout might be slightly different, but the basic principle behind how the potentiometer works and how it's connected is the same on all the pedals. So you should be able to follow what I'm showing you here against your pedal if you ever need to do it. So why would you replace this little piece of metal and plastic and carbon and whatnot? Two reasons. First off, if the original part just wears out, or in my case it's been sitting around a little bit and possibly not the cleanest environment, various bits of dirt and grime got in here and contaminated it, and it just got to be at the stage where it's very, very noisy. There's lots of nasty pops and crackles as I'm operating the pedal, so it's a sign that there's some dirt getting in there. Tried cleaning it with a like switch cleaner spray, compressed air spray, whatever. Didn't have any real lasting effect, so I realised it must be the pot's just kind of beyond repair, needs replacing. Another reason people sometimes replace these potentiometers is that they're experimenting with different sounds. And this particular one is a 100 kilo ohm pot. There's various different ratings, and some people do like to experiment by putting different ratings of pots or different sizes of pots into the pedal to see how it affects the sound. I think the manufacturers generally say that's not a good thing, it will spoil the sound. And I can kind of see where they're coming from, because it's their pedal, it's their design, built the way that they want it to sound. So making it sound different will be deviating from the way that they really want it to sound. But experimentation is good, and some people do like the effect that they get by using a non-standard rated pot. So that's another reason that you might want to do it. It's a fairly easy job to do. You don't need anything really sophisticated in terms of tools. Screwdriver, little spanner and a soldering iron. Soldering's not complicated, there's plenty of space in there, it's not too fiddly. As long as you can solder, you'll be able to do this repair. As I say, I've already done the repair on this pedal, but what I'll do is I'll kind of go back through the procedure and show you how it's done, so you know how to do it if you need to replace the pot on your own pedal. Okay, let's get the pedal down on the bench. So here's the pedal on the desk ready for us to start work on. So let's flip it over. And the first thing we need to do is to take these feet off. There are some little Phillips head screws inside these feet, but if your pedal's anything like mine, you should be able to just grab a hold of the little rubber feet and unscrew them with your fingers, and they'll come straight off. So take those feet off, put them safely off to one side, keep all the parts together, and take the other two off. And then we can take the whole back plate off and see the inside of the pedal. And this should be a fairly familiar sight if you're used to changing the battery on your pedal, because on the CryBaby the whole back comes off, so you can get that battery connector there. I don't. I always use an external power supply. If you do use a battery though, now's the time to disconnect the battery. It's a good rule for anything electrical or electronic. If you're working on it, disconnect the power source. Even if you think it's something trivial like a battery, even if it's not enough to kill you or hurt you, it could still do some damage to the electronics inside of the equipment if you wire something up wrong. So if you've got the battery there, disconnect that for now. Now let's just have a quick look at the layout of the pedal, just kind of orientate ourselves. Got the battery connector there. Looking at this upside down, so that's the input jack, that's the output jack, down here that's the external power supply. This little bit of circuit board here is what actually gives you the wah wah effect. This has got all the electronics that give you the effect. And down this end we've got the potentiometer, which we're going to be changing, and this is what allows you to control the effect using the foot pedal. And lastly down here there's the on-off switch, which is actuated at the extreme end of the travel of the pedal. See if I can zoom the camera in slightly here. You get a slightly better look at what's going on down here. This here is the potentiometer, or known as a pot for short. Basically this is very similar to the pot that you've got on your electric guitar for controlling the volume or the tone. The difference here is it's a little bit bigger, and it's fitted with this rubber it's like toothed arrangement here, which engages with this toothed rod, which is actuated as the pedal moves up and down. So as the pedal moves, this rod moves with it, and it causes the potentiometer to rotate, and then that electrical signal, which goes down into the circuit board here, allows you to control the effect. And it's this potentiometer that we're going to be changing. Like I said, it's a fairly straightforward job. You don't need a whole lot of sophisticated tools. As long as you know how to use a soldering iron, you should be fine. It's fairly straightforward stuff with a soldering iron. One point to mention now is, so you've got a point of reference, get your camera or get your phone camera and take a photograph of what the pedal looks like now. So you've got a point of reference, because when you reassemble this it needs to look the same. Okay, so just try and position this so you can see what we're doing. Okay, so first off we need to disconnect these wires. As I said, this is a pedal I've already done the upgrade on, so I'm not going to actually be doing all the soldering and desoldering in this demo, but if you know how to use a soldering iron, you'll know what I'm on about. Just in case of getting the soldering iron, heating these up and disconnecting the wires. Nice and straightforward. So from now on, use your imagination and pretend that these wires aren't actually hooked up. Now at the minute everything's kind of locked into place. This toothed bar here pressed tightly against the potentiometer, that's held in place by this piece of plastic, which in turn is held in place by this screw. So what we need to do, Phillips head screwdriver, just loosen this screw off by not much, just a couple of turns or so. We're not taking this piece off altogether, all we need is just to loosen the screw off enough that we can move that retainer around. Once that's been moved, that little toothed rod moves out of the way so we can get access freely to the potentiometer. Potentiometer is held in place in here with a nut and a couple of washers. So what you need is a spanner or a wrench, I think Americans would prefer to call it, to loosen off this nut here, so we can take the whole potentiometer up and out of the case. This is quite old school technology, as you can tell. The simplicity of this circuit board and the wiring inside. There's actually quite a lot of movement in there, so even if you don't have a really precise spanner, something like this, you can get away with using something a bit chunkier like this adjustable spanner. You can see how broad that is, but still there's enough space in there to be able to get in and access that nut. Okay, so I haven't got the spanner on there, just a couple of turns to loosen it off, then you can do the rest with your fingers. Slackened off quite nicely, and now that whole potentiometer lifts out. Okay, so now it will be a case of getting the new potentiometer, popping that back into place, So imagine that had been disconnected from the wires. We can just replace it, put the potentiometer back in, and it's just a case of repeating the process. Get that in, tighten that nut up to fasten the potentiometer into place in the little cradle there. While you're doing this, hold the body of the pot so you've got these three connectors facing up over, so you can get at them easily for reconnecting the cables in a minute. Okay, now this does need to be fairly tight because obviously it's going to be moving when you're playing the pedal. Okay, so that's in place now. What we need to do is put this little toothed rod back into place. We need to make sure that we've got it in the right position. So if you think about how this potentiometer is going to move when we're playing it, it's going to spin clockwise and anti-clockwise. Think about how it's going to, the toothed bar is going to hook into it, and as the pedal goes down, the potentiometer is going to move in that direction. What we need to do is push that back, turn that potentiometer so it's at the maximum of its turn in this direction. Okay, now what we need to do is push the pedal down as far as it'll go, and then some. Because if you think, there's a little switch in here, so we need to be able to push this all the way down. So we push the pedal all the way down, push that tooth bar across, hold that into place, and then slide this little retainer across. So now that retaining bar, that retainer is now pulling that tooth bar against the potentiometer, and we'll just tighten this screw up a little bit to hold everything into place. And we've got full travel there on the pedal as it moves right the way through its range. The potentiometer is moving, so there's no problem with the potentiometer being at the end of its range while the pedal's in mid travel. So now it's going to be a case of getting the soldering iron and just resoldering these wires onto these three connectors. There's actually 4 wires here, two blue wires here go to this contact, the yellow one here and the black one here. So take a photograph of this before you start so you've got something to use as your reference. Okay, so once you've got all that connected up, if you usually use a battery, reconnect the battery now, and that's the job done. Let's put the bass player back on the pedal. Okay, and that's the job done. So, just one repaired pedal and one defective potentiometer. If you were doing this job because the old potentiometer is broken and past it, remember, dispose of the old pot responsibly. Don't just throw it in the general rubbish. Dispose of it as you would with any electrical waste. Recycle it, get rid of it responsibly. And you've got a new rejuvenated voice in this pedal now. In total, obviously I've cut a few corners here by not actually doing the soldering and whatnot, but I think in total it took me about 10, maybe 15 minutes to do that pot replacement when I did it. Everything from clearing the workbench, getting everything set up and tidying up afterwards. So it's not a difficult job to do. And it's something, if you can use a soldering iron, it'll be within your capabilities to be able to do a repair job like this. So hopefully you found that useful, and if you feel like experimenting with different potentiometer ratings in your own CryBaby, give it a go. Or if your CryBaby is like mine that does need a replacement pot, now you know how it's done. Maybe you'll have feel like you've got the confidence to go out and tackle that sort of repair yourself. Hope you found that useful. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.